beautiful people. Happy Wednesday, September 9th. I walked before I recorded this morning, and I really should do it that way more often. I get up early enough, and I just get so much, I don't know, inspiration, or I don't know, the way my brain works in the morning. So I was listening to a fella, Grant Cardone. Yeah, that's my latest thing, right? Listening to him. And you know how I tell you to protect your positivity? He was kind of talking about that too, but in a little different fashion. He says no negativity. And he used this example, and I just have to share this with you because it was so good. He was talking about how people are conductors of the negative. So it's not just bad enough that the news does it, but we hear bad news and we spread it, right? Like, are we spreading the good news as much as and as fast as we spread the bad news or the negativity? But the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I could totally relate to the fact, people are conductors. He used this example, though, that I just loved. If you hung out with someone who every time they came over your house, they left 2 bags of stinking rotten garbage in your living room, would you continue to hang out with them? Right? That's a physical example. You wouldn't allow them in your house. You wouldn't let them ruin your house. Well, the same thing is true with mindset. That was just so obvious. Like, after I heard that, I was just digesting it. So if someone comes and dumps a bunch of negative shit that makes you have a bad attitude or drains your positivity, then don't allow that. And, you might be saying, oh, well, there's, all these people are important to me, blah, blah, blah. And he even gave an example of how to cure that. So let's say that you had a friend that was talking about another mutual friend to you, and it was negative. And, you're like, you don't want to hear that, right? They're dumping garbage in your living room. So you say, okay, well, let's call that friend now and tell them what you had to say and see how those people react. And in his example, the person never did it again. And I imagine if we tried it, the people would never do it again. I remember doing this with someone. My biggest go-to line is, I don't have enough information on that topic. Like, it's not for me to say. If it's politics or, worldwide stuff, it's like, oh, I don't really know about that. I don't watch news, which is 100% true. Or like, I don't have time to engage in that. Like, I have my own stuff, I don't need to try to conquer the world stuff. So those are my thoughts on that. I really reflected. Of course, I'm adding my own words here to kind of make it make sense to you. But this guy's pretty smart is what I'm learning. And I'm aligned with a lot of his thinking, so I'm enjoying it. Not that I should only be aligned with people that agree with me, but I'm learning a lot of things, too, that I just didn't know. And he's inspiring me to think a little bit more. So anyway, that's my shout out for that this morning. So here we go. September 9th, Og Mandino says, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. OMG. Sobriety has taught us the value of a sense of purpose, a center to target our energies. Too often, we tried to be all things to all people, then ran in too many directions at one time. The typical result was frustration and poor accomplishments. This left us with low self-esteem and even less willingness to pursue healthy goals. We can apply the principles we've learned in 12-step recovery or any recovery to any area of our lives and steer in a more direct, spiritually sound course. We can focus on doing first things first and taking small steps towards what we want. It is far more dignified and joyous to arrive somewhere, tasks fulfilled, than to dart about and achieve nothing. We needn't change everything at once. We can repair our bodies in a modest exercise program, get a little more rest, and add a few healthy foods to our diet. To activate our minds, we could take a single class or pursue a lost hobby. And to enrich our spiritual lives, we could take a few minutes each day to pray and meditate. By taking small, humble steps, we stay within our abilities and focus on the true direction we need in our new sober life. Today, let me concentrate on each small step I take towards my goals. I can relate to this. My journey, as you know, because I talk about it all the time, is I needed to quit gambling. And that was the first thing I did. Now, I was working with someone who wanted to quit gambling and quit smoking at the same time. And I'm like, well, it's going to be stressful enough to quit gambling. Are you sure you want to not smoke too? I don't really recommend that. I mean, of course I want her to quit smoking, but I don't want her to overwhelm herself and then fail at both. And I think that that's what this reading is saying. So throughout my path, I had to quit gambling and then fast forward. So if I quit gambling in March of 2017, December of 2019, first, the beginning of 2019 is when I started to explore spirituality, right? It was another step. I started going to church and started meditating more. Then at the end of 2019 is when I had my last drink. And oh, by the way, I'm still struggling with the to drink or not to drink question. I'm having really mixed feelings about this. And my girlfriend says, the more people you ask, the more different opinions you're going to get. She said, I'll know when it's right. So I hope that that's right. And now, as you know, 2020, I'd been working on trying to quit smoking since even when I went to rehab for gambling. I brought limited cigarettes and was like, okay, when I run out, I'll quit. And I did the same thing on the sober trip, and I just haven't been successful. And, this time around, I managed to put together over 30-something days. I did smoke that day with Polly, and I'll be honest, I did smoke yesterday. I woke up yesterday wanting a cigarette, like so bad. I wanted coffee and a cigarette, and I fought all day until I finally just gave in. And here's something too, guys, about progress and forgiving ourselves. And I want to practice what I preach, and I would preach you to forgive yourself when you do things. So I forgave myself that day with Polly, and then even both days, right? I did have coffee on both days. Totally a trigger, which is also part of why it's scary to drink again. But I had coffee. I knew what I wanted. I let the addiction voice definitely win, because it wasn't nicotine withdrawal or whatever. Like, there's been days I've had the same. I'm not recommending this. It's against doctor's orders, but I've had the same patch on for a few days, and it's not nicotine, because I don't get very much nicotine through my vape. That's just a crutch, and actually when it's not in my line of vision, I don't use it very often. So it was just, I wanted what I wanted, and it was the addiction voice going, come on, Bobby, let's have a cigarette. So I did. But here's the success part of that. I know you're probably thinking, what the frick? That wasn't a success. It was, because I didn't go and buy a pack either time. I didn't stay smoking. So I smoked with Paul. That was 2 weekends ago. Yeah, it was almost 2 weeks ago. Now, I don't want the gaps to get smaller, and I don't want to allow myself to smoke just whenever I want. But I'm also not going to beat myself up for smoking yesterday. And I'm going to be honest and transparent with you. And this can be applied to anything. And I went off the rails, I know. Where I was going was, there was a 2-year span between my quitting gambling and when I started looking at my spirituality. And then there was another span before I gave up alcohol. And then there was another span before I gave up smoking. And smoking is obviously still a work in progress. So what this is saying is small steps. It's more dignified and joyous to arrive somewhere with the task fulfilled than to dart around and achieve nothing. So for years and years and years, I want to quit smoking, drinking, blah, 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 all these things. Well, none of those things happen. Here's the other thing, guys, and this is just how I operate. So, I'm doing the 75 hard. I think I'm on day 40 something. And yeah, even though I made the caffeine and the smoking a rule, I'm still going. We've decided I'm going to do it when I get back from my trip as well. I'm going to start over, and I'm going to make it harder, and I'm going to take away sugar, because it's another one of my issues. I have my freaking sweet tooth. And that's what keeps my belly like Santa Claus's. So I'm going to come back and do that. But here I am on day 40 something. And out of these 40, I'm looking it up. I'm on day 45. So out of those 44 days, I've smoked twice. I've had coffee, I think 2, maybe 3 times. Without smoking, I still have managed to lose over 10 pounds, right? Because weight was another thing that I couldn't conquer, like, oh, well, if I quit smoking, I'm going to gain weight and all these limiting beliefs and all this just bullshit. So I'm here to tell you that this one thing at a time, and it can be applied to the things that we want to remove in our life, but also how we handle our relationships too. We're not going to fix and repair everything all at once if we've done damage. We're just not. We're not going to be able to fix work at the same time as family, as, our spouse, at the same time as our kids, everything. Everybody's going to be on different paces. So keep that in mind too. And as long as you stay focused on you and true to you, I mean, even though I'm talking about now an almost 4-year span, if I didn't start somewhere, it would be like the prior 20-something years or 30-something years of trying and failing because I was trying everything at once. So that's a great reading. And I hope that you can give that a little thought and, give yourself some reprieve, and also just decide what it is you do want to focus on. But don't feel like you have to focus on all of it at once. I mean, I didn't even know quitting drinking was really on my radar. So it's just, I don't know. It's interesting. All right, beautiful people. I have to go to my book writing meeting now. So I hope that you have a fabulous day, and I will be back tomorrow. Today's Wednesday. Okay, I'm like losing my days of the week. I'm trying to think. We have another interview releasing on Friday. I'm not sure who it is. I think it's my friend Jason. So back to those Friday interview shows. It really gives me joy to connect with people, and I always learn so much and get so much value from other people. So it's fabulous. So I love sharing that with you. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.